Summer is here and everyone is talking about their travel plans, whether it's a road trip, hiking adventure, beach vacation, cruise, you name it. Making memories with friends and family with summertime travel is a big hit for most people. But for many of the moms that we work with here at Legacy Physical Therapy, there's also an underlying worry that's associated with travel. And it has to do with where and when they'll be able to find a restroom. And you may think this is because they've got to worry about their kids in the back of the car, but in reality, for a lot of women, planning travel, summertime trips with friends and family can be very worrisome when they themselves are dealing with bladder issues. Many of the common phrases that we hear our patients say all the time is, I need to go to the bathroom every 30 minutes, so how can I possibly think about going on a road trip or getting on a plane? Or I plan my trip based on knowing how many times I'm going to have to get out and go to the bathroom. Or I'll only go places where I know that there's going to be a bathroom readily available. Otherwise, I don't feel like I'm going to be in a good place. If any of this sounds familiar, then I'm here to tell you you are not alone. And in today's video, I'm going to go over some things that you can do so that you can travel successfully, even if you're dealing with bladder urgency and leakage. My name is Dr. Brooke Kalisiak, and I'm a pelvic physical therapist who is passionate about helping people live their lives without worrying about bladder urgency, frequency, or leakage. These can be major stressors for people who are considering taking a trip. Imagine having your decision process on what you're going to do for travel be based on your bladder and its needs instead of on cost of the trip, where you want to go, and how much time off you have. For many of our patients who are dealing with bladder urgency, frequency, or leakage, their bladder can dictate where and when they travel. We commonly hear people say phrases like, I need to know exactly where all the bathrooms are going to be, or I'm not going to be comfortable. I wonder how many pairs of underwear I'm going to have to pack, or how many pads, and will that take up too many spots or spaces in my luggage for the trip? I wonder how many plastic bags I'm going to have to bring to be able to change out of wet clothes. And will my family notice how many times I'm having to stop and change clothes? All of this adds extra stress to travel and makes it not nearly as fun of an option. So I'm here to tell you that if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, they are common, but they're not normal. And let's dive into what you can do to help keep your bladder happy when you're traveling. For many people dealing with bladder leakage, they think that the only thing that they have to do to try and help with this is to do Kegel exercises. A Kegel is a contraction of the pelvic floor muscles. And for many people, unfortunately, they are wrongly told that Kegel exercises are the end-all be-all if they're dealing with leakage. So if this is something that you're considering, well, I'm about to go on a trip, I better start doing my Kegel exercises, just know that this is usually not the answer for people. Oftentimes, the pelvic floor muscles are already too tight and tense, and this can be causing the urgency, frequency, and potentially leakage that people are experiencing. And so if you start doing Kegel exercises, which is a contraction or a tensing of the pelvic floor muscle, that can make symptoms even worse. So I don't recommend blanketly starting to do a bunch of Kegel exercises if you're already dealing with bladder leakage and trying to get that under control before you start on a trip. Okay, so if Kegel exercises aren't the answer, what can you be doing to get your bladder ready for an upcoming trip? First and foremost, you can start to practice some normal bladder habits. So typical bladders can go anywhere from 2 to 4 hours between voids. So if you're going more frequently than that, you want to start to see if you can push out or delay that urge to go a little bit more and get used to going at a little bit longer clips in between your bathroom visits. You also want to think about avoiding going to the bathroom just in case. So when we go to the bathroom just in case because we're about to leave the house, or I'm about to do a lot of shopping in Target, so I'm going to go to the bathroom ahead of time, or I just happen to be walking by a bathroom that I know is a clean bathroom, so I'm going to go just in case. This is tricking our bladder into thinking that we have to go more and more often than we really do. For some people, it's helpful to actually track a little bit to see how often throughout the day you're going, because sometimes our bladder kind of tricks us and we don't realize that we're actually going every 45 minutes or hour. And so when we track it on paper, that can be helpful. But trying to get into those normal voiding habits of avoiding going just in case and trying to void every 2 to 4 hours ahead of your travel can make your bladder much more happier when you do travel. While you're traveling, watch what you drink and when you drink it. So you want to think about avoiding bladder irritants. So coffee, carbonated drinks, caffeinated drinks, alcohol, things with artificial sweeteners. These all tend to irritate the bladder and can make you feel like you need to go more often, have more urgency, or even can have leakage with it. So if you can minimize or eliminate those things, your bladder is going to be happier. You do want to stay hydrated, so think about drinking water throughout the day. You want to be mindful of when and how you drink it though. So if you're about to hop on a plane or you're about to start a long road trip, don't guzzle down a bunch of water. Instead, think about sipping on it throughout the day, throughout the travel, so that you're staying hydrated, you're not getting parched, you're getting fluid in, but we're not overloading the bladder all at one time with a large amount of fluid, especially when we're about to be in a compromising situation where a bathroom may not be as readily available. When the urge to pee comes on, it can feel strong, but there are some things that you can do to minimize that urgency. So when you start to get the urge to urinate, this is a great time to start to take big, slow, relaxing deep breaths. This deep breath can have a quieting effect on the bladder and can help make the urge to pee kind of go away. So urge typically comes on like a wave. It's going to get stronger and stronger, but it will peak out and then it'll start to go back down. You may have experienced this yourself where you felt like you need to go to the bathroom, but you're busy doing something else. And all of a sudden you realize that urge has gone away and it's been like 20 minutes since you last felt it. So that's that wave effect. So if you can take slow, deep breaths, that can have a calming effect on the bladder and get that urge to go down. And if you can think about doing something that kind of distracts you from that urge, gets your brain thinking about something else other than I have to go to the bathroom, that also can help you ride out that urgency wave. For some people, when they travel, especially, bladder irritants can really mess with how irritated their bladder is and how much urgency and frequency they experience. So if you're already dealing with bladder issues ahead of travel, you want to think about minimizing those foods and fluids that do irritate your bladder. So most common ones are citrus type products, things with caffeine in it, chocolate, tomatoes, anything that's more on the spicy side of it, carbonated things, and alcohol. These are some of the most common things that do irritate the bladder. And I'm not saying that all of these are irritants for everyone, but if we are already worried about our bladder potentially having urgency or leakage during our travel, if we can minimize these things, especially if you know that they have a tendency to irritate your bladder, like caffeinated beverages, if we can minimize those, that can make your travel much less worrisome and more enjoyable. Another tip for managing your bladder while you travel is to think about stretching and moving regularly. When we do prolonged sitting on a long road trip or a long flight, that can actually cause things in the pelvic area to get pretty stagnant and can actually cause the pelvic floor to be more tensed up or held in a tight pattern, which can again contribute to urgency and frequency. So I know you don't always have the ability to get up and move around, but when you do have a chance to get up and move around, if it's on a long road trip, maybe walk the length of the parking lot at the rest stop or do some laps around the building before you get back into the car. If it's a long plane flight, can you get up and walk up and down the aisle there? If you can't get up from the position, can you do some movement in place? Can you march your legs up and down a little bit? Can you let your knees fall in and out? Can you think about tilting your pelvis forward and backwards just to get some movement around there so that things aren't so stagnant and that the pelvic floor doesn't have that tendency to tense up on you and potentially cause an issue? If bladder leakage and frequent stops is keeping you from traveling the way you want to, please know that you're not alone and there are things you can do to get over your bladder symptoms. If you're local to St. Louis, we would love to see you here at Legacy Physical Therapy to help you get through your bladder leakage, bladder urgency, and frequency so that you can travel without worry. If you're not local to the St. Louis area, check out some of our other YouTube videos on bladder leakage and urgency and frequency in our bladder health playlist so that you too can learn further tips to help you optimize your bladder health. And if you happen to have a friend or a family member who seems to be avoiding travel or just really hesitant on going on a trip because they're dealing with some type of a bladder issue, tune them into this video, send them the link for it so that they too can watch and learn about different things they can do to help optimize their bladder for travel.